You're listening to The Talent Sync. The Talent Sync is a collaborative podcast production about anything and everything recruiting and hiring. Literally the kitchen sink on how all things in talent acquisition work together, should work together, and how sometimes they don't. Now it's time to sync up with your hosts, Leah Daniels and Kevin Grossman. Today's topic is all about how compliance impacts AI and candidate selection. Enjoy the podcast. Well, hello there, Leah. How are you doing?
Welcome to the middle of July. It is hot.
Is it? Is it hot for you?
Here in New England, we've decided to become Florida. We're hot, we're humid, we have an occasional thunderstorm in the middle of the day. We're just maybe a few alligators short of fully adopting the Florida lifestyle.
It's funny. I just saw a little video meme of I don't even know where they were at, whether it was Florida or somewhere else. People that were rafting that looked like a river, and a crocodile was chasing one of them, like for reals. And I'm like, my wife and I are like, where is this at? Why are you in the water right now? And also in a raft with a crocodile chasing you. But yes, it's been hot. We've been fortunate because the heat dome that we've had in the West is not quite grabbed where I live right on the water here, thank goodness. San Francisco, a little bit warmer too, but no, inland it's triple digits, but where we're at, it hasn't been.
Yeah, we've had heat index over 100 all week.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's all right. You know what? No alligators. We're good.
No alligator, but you know what? There are alligators in AI today. So let's talk, that's the segue. There are alligators
I like it.
So listen, what's going on? Because you've been sharing some interesting tidbits, things that you've been writing about that's all related to AI in our space and just AI in general that I've kind of been following too. But what's going on?
I mean, let's start with the fact that I appreciate this opportunity to totally nerd on this stuff today.
Nerd out with us, please, because
so
this is going to be, you're educating us all, including me. So,
last month, I write a monthly newsletter for JobSync, and it usually has an opening that's somewhat meaty and interesting. And what struck me in the last few weeks is really a few things that are happening. There's this Workday lawsuit around, is Workday participating in discriminatory practices when candidates apply? That's super interesting. We saw Aon Hewitt get into a lawsuit on something similar, but we're also looking at lots of things around AI, regulation, candidate experience. They're all sort of converging together. It's all sort of happening all at once. And I think more than that, we're also seeing it around like the investment community and where they're putting money, the hiring market, as we sit here and we pause for a second to figure out the AI impact on hiring, like all sorts of stuff's happening. So let's tear it all apart. Let's start with the biggest one that was like a mind blower to me, which is Intuit announced a layoff the other day, 15,000 people, 12,000 of which they want to replace with AI.
And the CEO was clear about this in the announcement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's gone viral now, not the thing you want to go viral for sure. And, you start with that and you're like, oh, great. Wow. We were kind of making this commitment. And then, you and I have just had a chat a little while ago around Lattice bringing AI as a person entity into its employee management, right? And having it be part of the construct and even in the org chart, even an org chart with AI as people. Are they people?
So why? And we talked before we started this episode, we talked a little bit about it, but the thing that I don't understand, and even with the whole Intuit announcement, I mean, UKG and others have also, they haven't given specific numbers or made it the connection that they're replacing people with. They just said they're investing more in UI and AI services, for example, within their organization, which means, cutting headcount and costs and investing in AI. But why the AI equals people equation? What is the value of and even onboarding digital, as the Lattice CEO talked about, digital employees? Because I can tell you that humans that are out there looking for work right now are not going to be happy about that at all. But I guess I don't understand the why of it, because reality is this is another technology layer that I'm implementing in my organization to help me drive efficiencies, whatever you want to call it, right? But why are we equating it to a person?
I have a crazy idea. Do you think we did this to ourselves when we started giving the AI human names. Like, this is my chatbot, Alex.
I mean, yes. And by the way, I'm, in all transparency, I'm a proponent of the use cases that are in helping to engage candidates throughout the process. That includes conversational AI and chatbots. And it's supposed to make it more human when you give them a name to do that. And a lot of people have have fond comments, employers that are leveraging this technologies as well as the candidates about, oh, John, Sally, Olivia, the list goes on, that it's great and interacted. So yes, I think part of it is that, but why are we going as far as saying we're onboarding digital employees though?
I haven't onboarded any digital employees yet, so I can't tell you.
But let's
exactly.
so here's, again, I'm kind of struggling with that one, especially in a market where we have 4 million fewer jobs than 2 years ago. About thereabouts, and we have candidate frustration at an all-time high. And anybody who's in TA who continues to struggle to look for work, it has had horrific experiences out there. I don't know why. I just don't understand the optics of that, or the Intuit announcement either, right? I mean, can we go back to the Workday thing for a sec, though?
Oh yeah, we're gonna get back there for sure.
Yeah, just because maybe it's an existential thing when I'm asking that question, why Lattice did that. But when we come to the Workday thing, this is a really serious issue. And the EEOC is actually siding, in a way, right, with the plaintiff.
So the EEO is super confusing to me in a little bit, right?
Explain.
And part of it's, so the commissioner has been really clear, I think, in his messaging to market that he sees AI as the path. We are going to invest. It is going to, in part, help bridge the gap, because I think there is, and you know this, I'm a real geek for the data around worker access in the next 10, 20, 30 years, as we are in 2024 at our precipice, right? It's downhill from here in terms of numbers. We are going to start losing our worker population as they retire out. So I think that they've been very clear-headed about the investment in AI and how to create automation, and that will help bridge the gap between workers needed and workers available. Now, we still have a skills gap. I'm not going to touch that right now. So I think that he's been really clear-headed about the necessity of AI and how to drive that forward in our businesses. So statement one, right? This is interesting to me for two reasons. The first is because historically, the EEO has fallen on a very clear path that if you participate in any discriminatory behavior, even if your technology or your vendors are responsible for that, you are still liable to the outcomes of your discriminatory hiring practices. And so that practices encompasses everything, but you as the employer own it. And what's interesting about this is it's really starting the statement of a deviation from that. The EEO has said potentially Workday's AI is contributing to discriminatory practices, and therefore we should not hold technology as a technology, but rather closer to how we hold staffing firms, right, or employment agencies. And that means that they can be held responsible for the discriminatory practices of their employer customers if their technology is participating or contributing to such discriminatory practices. Now, that's complicated on so many fronts. Now, there's one more thing just to throw into the mix, just to get it really ugly, which is California has a proposed legislation that's going through the process now around holding technology responsible. And I'm actually not against that. I think that there is an element here where if technology, not on an individual employer, but on a wide scale practice, is creating discriminatory outcomes for its customers, you do need to be part.
Who are the employers? And that is part of the hiring equation. I mean, and this isn't about, we're not like pinning Workday or any of these organizations or companies to the ground, but I do think it is these are important questions to ask, because if I am employer X and I have 12 different recruiting technology systems that are part of my ecosystem that are helping me from sourcing all the way to onboarding, and there is an AI elements in those, and there are things that do inadvertently, there's bias in the selection process, and that's part of that whole ecosystem. I mean, their employer ultimately is responsible because they're leveraging those. Does the employer even understand how that technology works, right? Especially artificial intelligence.
Time for a talent sync break.
Hey everybody, Kevin Grossman here, president of Talent Board and the Candidate Experience Awards. Our 2023 Candidate Experience Benchmark Research Program will open in January and run through August 31st. To learn more on how your organization can participate, go to thetalentboard.org.
Break time's over. Now back to the talent sync.
Definitely no, but let's make it worse. Most of these employers are doing something that they are required to do by the federal government, which is ask these questions that make it feel like you might be discriminating. Now, I know we all put the language that makes it clear that this is for survey and collection and all that's nonsense, right? But I am going to ask you now, what is your gender? What is your race? Are you disabled? Are you a veteran? I'm going to ask these questions and I'm going to collect this data. Now, if you are a candidate and you apply to 100 jobs and you answer this information truthfully, and you're like, I am a veteran, I am disabled, I am Hispanic or African American or whatever it might be, if you are giving up all of this information, which we know there is known discrimination against these classes of people, that's why we're collecting the information, ironically, are we actually introducing this idea that discrimination can be happening? Because to be fair, I don't think candidates know where that data goes.
They don't know. No,
they don't know.
Most don't know unless they're in the industry and they have worked in recruiting and HR technology for any length of time. No, most candidates don't know. Then the question is, do they care? Should they care? Yes. And some obviously do when they feel like they've been discriminated against. But most, I would argue, they're not necessarily thinking that. But just to answer the question about that question, when I'm looking at our data for this year so far, for the 2024 Candy Benchmark data, we do ask them what was done when they were being screened about the process. I'll have to come back to that. But the good majority of the candidates still are being asked that question you just brought up. What is your...
You have to.
Yeah, right. It's the leak. I mean, well, it's not 100% in our data, but although...
Well, so it's interesting. You don't, right? The EEO says that you don't have to ask the question unless you should ask it. And actually, they say if you don't get the information, you can guess basically as the hiring entity, which that's a whole different issue. We'll get to that later. But the OFCCP is actually very clear that an internet applicant needs to have these questions for the EEO and the OFCCP presented to the candidate at the earliest opportunity for a qualified candidate. For a lot of companies, lawyers, they read that and go, that's the application process, because we know at that point you're qualified. So we got to ask these questions. And so, you've got these candidates who don't understand databases. They don't understand where this data goes. They're being asked these questions. They're answering because they have to. And here's the kicker. They didn't get the job, but they don't know if that's the reason why or not. And the EEO is going to say, well, no one sues over that, because they don't. Because how would they know? The EEO's lawsuits, if you look at most of them, nearly every judgment from the EEO comes down around failure to promote in a non-discriminatory way. And that's because the people who are affected can look around the room and go, wow, I've never been promoted. Neither is anyone else who's a girl, right? The data is much more accessible to the complainant that would need to start that process with the EEO. And it's hard as a candidate. You would never know this. You can't know that. You don't get that information. And so this actually gets to the bigger problem, right? Which is transparency.
Yes, it does. And that is, and again, I said this to you before we started, that from average job candidate across job types, hourly, professional, management, the only thing that a job candidate wants is the job, and most won't get it. And but most want feedback, regardless of the outcome, especially if it's not the offer at the end of the day. And organizations historically don't give that kind of feedback. We recommend it at the finalist stage from a candidate experience perspective, but at the point of application, for those who just aren't qualified, take serial appliers out, and those serial appliers that are using AI tools now to apply, which we're seeing a spike in, as you know, in applications too. But the point is that they want feedback in earlier stages, and in defense of every employer, that's just not a reality, especially for any hiring volume. But I mean, are we going to see more of these things, like this individual in this particular lawsuit that said they applied for 80 to 100 different positions?
I think the interesting thing about this lawsuit for me is I suspect that this AI piece is a little bit of a red herring, because you look at Workday and what they've done with AI so far. Now, this started before the finalization of the Hired Scored acquisition, but there isn't really a piece of the application puzzle where AI would have fit into the story.
Not really, no.
That would have been part of this. Great. So I suspect that it's actually their go-to-market and their marketing message around AI and the adoption and the promotion of AI. And this person's lived experience where he's giving up all this important data that would allow you to discriminate. And it's him saying these two things are logical. This is probably what's happening. And
it's going to be difficult to prove then.
yeah, I suspect that this does not result anywhere in terms of an outcome for him that's favorable. But I would say it does actually open the door for the EO to pursue this path of holding technology responsible for the outcomes of its users. That I think is really the meat of where this gets interesting. Is it's not about whether or not this lawsuit ends up favoring for the plaintiff or the defendant. I think it's really about what happens in the EEO and where they end up and their perspective around all of this.
Well, and I think it behooves solution providers that have been pushing on the marketing side the AI components of their platforms to be very wary about saying things like bias free, right? I mean,
right?
I mean, I mean, even without AI, I don't know why anybody could comfortably say that and be able to prove that either, right? I mean, I don't think that we know. I mean, you made an interesting point when you talked about the different forms of where AI is today in your article about asking the questions you should be asking, right? And you had mentioned that, by the way, one of these does not exist. Well, I'm assuming you meant general intelligence, right? This is a book that I'm reading now by Amy Webb, who is a futurist, and she was on Brené Brown a few months ago, and she wrote a book back in 2019, 5 years ago, called The Big Nine, about the development of AI and how China and the US are the big drivers and how our countries approach it differently and how we're allowing in the US private industry to drive AI's progress, including anything that's ethically considered, which may not be in the best interest of all of us at the end of the day. But she talks about how general intelligence we're not, even 5 years ago, wasn't here yet either. But, they've been working on it and will continue to work on it. But I do think that employers, and this is why, and I know some of the organizations that I've gotten to know, love them or leave them, that are recruiting tech vendors that have AI to modify their language so they're being more clear and trying to give some level of transparency, right? A little bit less opaque about this is the reality of what we can do, which is why I think you may or may not agree with me. Why Paradox has pushed more on just their candidate communications aspects of the conversational AI, because that's where most of the adoption's happening anyway, at least of late, even though we're seeing a greater increase.
So I think there's an interesting thing here, right? Because there is AI as it exists today. There's AI of tomorrow, and there's AI of 5 years from now. On all of them, interesting, right? In that there is potential. Like I go back and forth on AI and how I feel about it, like as the wind blows.
We're both learning about it. It's like weird. It's scary and it's exciting at the same time, right?
I was saying yesterday to someone that I think that there's a lot of parallels in this journey with AI as there was with Bitcoin quite a few years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, it's so cool. Oh, maybe it's not so cool. Oh, wait, is it real? Is it fake? Why are there so many servers involved? Did Tom Brady lose $100 million really? Like,
right.
So many questions, right? But I do think that we're on a bit of a journey like it too, where we have a lot of people who are all in, some people who are a little cold on it, people who are like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. But where I sort of landed in our world right here, where is AI going to be really impactful? Where's it going to do something interesting for us? Now, you're right. There's going to be an ethical question that I think is really important to kind of keep to the side here. But I look at candidates and the candidate experience, and that 100 to 200 application thing kills me inside. And I say, why is this happening? And I think a lot of the market is addressing it by, let's give candidates tools to make doing those 200 applications easier. But like, how do we actually not do that? How do we fix the search and match problem? How do we help candidates really just find those jobs that are the ones they're most properly fit for and likely to get?
Time for a Talent Sync break.
Hi, Talent Sync listeners. I just wanted to share a bit about JobSync with you all. JobSync helps companies get more quality candidates out of their job board advertising and automates a variety of manual recruitment tasks by solving for the very low conversion rate challenges most companies experience on their career site. JobSync integrates your entire application, including all of your questions, directly into the various job boards' quick apply processes, providing you with fully completed applications directly into your ATS and resulting in 2 to 5 times more candidates while dropping your cost per application by half. This helps return up to 10 hours a week back into your recruiter's time through custom automations that are based on your business-specific recruiting processes. JobSync works with most major ATSs like Workday, SuccessFactors, and Taleo, CRMs, programmatic platforms, and job boards like Indeed and Zip. You can check out jobsync.com to learn more.
Break time's over. Now back to the Talent Sync.
That is the question, right?
Right. But that is a great use case of AI. The challenge is you can't do it in a way that prevents candidates from seeing other opportunities. Like that is the thing that is a balance, right? Because that in that version that I just laid out could also be incredibly discriminatory. If it knows enough about me and it's like, oh, well, you're a 28-year-old woman and you're engaged, you might have babies soon. That might fuel in, right? These are things it could do. We want to be careful. But
do you think like other recommendation engines that we've seen, like with Netflix and Amazon and others, technically and have learned over time, theoretically, maybe have gotten a little bit potentially more accurate, but is that, I don't even know how is anybody measuring that accuracy though? Like
yeah, it's a great question because I think that Netflix kind of it does a better job if you actually decide to use your profile. But like in my family, we don't. We all use the same profile, so it's very confused about our interests.
So, and that, by the way, that is, but see, that's an important point, right? Because as most job candidates that are looking for a job, are they using their individual skills, priorities, and experience to help them better, help the technology help them make better selection tools, or they just, it's just the same thing again. I'm just going to apply. Let it help me apply for these jobs it says I match to. That could be hundreds, if not thousands, which we've seen lazyapply.com and others that we've talked about before on our show, and that I've written about since I was looking at it more. I mean, is it really helping them? It's not helping the equation of get a better match. It's just not.
No, that's not. It's facilitating a process faster. But I think, you and I talk about this. In my world of candidate experience, there is a counterbalance statement of recruiter experience. You cannot have a fabulous candidate experience if you have a horrible recruiter experience.
No, because it's coming. No, because otherwise, and it's just not possible. No.
But when you start to pour in hundreds of bot-based applies into one job, and this poor recruiter walks in on Tuesday morning and they look at 600 open applications that they need to deal with, we don't have an AI for that, right? And so now the best you could do is reorder them, maybe, if you've got enough data, right? And so if you did those easy applies and all you know is their first name, last name, phone number, and email address, you don't even have enough to do any sort of sorting other than start at the top and keep on working. This is the challenge. We have to figure out how we rise all boats, not just help facilitate bad applicant, a bad match applicant, not a bad applicant, no, bad applicants, bad match applicant through faster.
Yes, but it also means, Leah, that's where we have to address the matching problem. Again, it comes back to what you just brought up for both the employers as well. And I remember the reason I even got into this space over 25 years ago now, there was a startup in Santa Cruz called TapestryNet. And we were at the time touting, obviously it was way early, but, artificial intelligent matching jobs to candidates. And, we had a partnership with Burning Glass. I mean, it was a fascinating thing. It's what got me into the HR recruiting tech space, which eventually got me into just where I'm at today, but we're still trying to solve for that. And part of that dilemma for both the candidates and the employer is leaning on technology to help with selection and the dangers of that, whether again, this Workday thing is a red herring, as you mentioned, which it sounds like it probably is, but just where now the EEO is kind of going into the seam there, right? A little bit at the end of the day. So if that's going to be the case, and let's say that there is a precedent in the years to come where technology providers can also be held accountable along with employers for these biased hiring mistakes, whatever you want to call that. How do we change that? Because it's been decades now since the interwebs came online and we moved the job application to online, and we're still not any closer to helping candidates self-select more. Anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh no, I think it's a new flavor of technology, same old problem. Like there has to be something radical that shifts, right? So why is this match problem such a problem? I think it's a couple of things. Do you remember, because you and I are old enough to remember this, when the original job search came online and it wasn't what and where, it was like, here's your advanced search, like location, this, that, education. As a candidate, you could fill in tons of information. You could provide a lot of data to the search. And we got hyper fixated on simplicity, simple, less, less, less. And so we start off with a simple problem of, we ask the candidate to give so little information about what they're interested in that the best we can do is guess what they might like. And then they click on something and you're like, oh, okay, well, they clicked apply. Now we don't know what happens because they went to another place, right? They went over to the ATS here. So we don't know if they applied or not. And so we don't actually know if it was a good fit or not. We just know they clicked on it. So like, let's give them more stuff like the thing they clicked on, even if it was and they abandoned it. So we are kind of created this problem ourselves in this drive to eliminate, to be more Google-like in our request of information. And then I think that sort of is our basis of the problem, right? And so then we add in this black hole challenge. So now people do apply and candidates don't get enough feedback fast enough. So then they, in their mind, are like, I have to apply for more. So then they apply for more. And then the recruiters get more. So they can't respond. And it's like, it just got out of control. And I don't know necessarily how we do this and fix it without some sort of massive disruption. But I do think if anywhere AI could help, it is in figuring out the search and match problem that we have been so unable to get our hands around.
And maybe so wary to get our hands around. Because, I don't know. Right? I think maybe some of the ethical issues around this, that the technologists themselves, it was obviously gung-ho around OpenAI and other AI tools taking copyrighted material and incorporating them into their search without permission. I don't want us to do that, but we do have to figure out a way to help candidates help themselves and employers, and eventually to help employers have more accurate individuals that they should be investing the time to screen and interview and get to the next stage.
Back to transparency, right? So I think that this is where the black box, the closed walled garden ATS hurts us a lot, right? Many jobs, we do one hire on one job rec. Now, not everyone, Evergreen's a whole different problem. We'll look at that separately, but like, that's a simple concept. I'm going to hire a marketing manager. I put it out. So you know what? We know a lot of information. For example, we know that there is, the job's been open for 35 days and we have 6 candidates in the interview phase. Like, at what point can we just put that out to market that says, hey, we are in late stages. You can apply, but be aware, like, we probably won't call you back. Like, where is that on the job? How are we not providing that information, right? Instead, we pretend like this is the best fresh open job in the world and you're very likely to get it if you just apply. Maybe, probably not. Where's that communication? And I know that I'm saying that as if it's so simple to do, and it's not, but that is the transparency piece we're really missing, is that where in the process of the hiring, funnel is this job, and should I throw my hat into it? And if I do I have a reasonable expectation to get a call back? There is a reason why job alerts exist on when the job shows up, and then candidates flood day one jobs.
Exactly.
They know that's their best chance.
It is, and that's what we need to solve for. Even after decades of being able to apply online, we've got to solve for that. And again, we need to solve for that instead of talking about how we're onboarding digital employees. I'm sorry,
No.
I just can't. I just can't take. Blessings to everybody. I know, try not to disparage. I just don't get how that doesn't help the equation that we're talking about. It makes it more. In fact, it makes it more frustrating for those looking, actually, I think, when they hear and see what's going on. So
it is funny though. I do feel like the humanization of things, right? I mentioned the chatbots, but I recently bought an electric car, and there's a fast charger at the Target just down by my road. And each of the fast chargers has its own name and identity, has like a whole history.
Really?
They've given it like a personality.
See, just charge my car. I know it's kind of, I get it. It can be, I don't know. Maybe it's just, I don't know what it is. I just charge my car. I'm like, I don't know.
But now I find myself attracted to one of the three more often than the other two, even though there's no particular reason. They're all
Then
the same.
I need to find you some help. I need to find you some help, Leah, as we wrap up this fun dialogue and discussion, which we'll continue to have. But, I think what we need to do, we should find, and I know you've got some folks we could bring on, we should talk about solving for this whole matching dilemma that we've had for decades now, right? I think let's try to dig into your network. I'm sure you've got somebody on the job board side, et cetera, that we could bring on to talk about it. Because to me, that's where I would make an investment today in technology, is to help solve for that.
Yeah, I think that's a super complicated.
It is. I know.
Question.
It is.
Right. It sounds simple, and even solving search and match actually creates another set of challenges around how. Let's say you do it. Like, so you magically you get it 1 for 1.
Yeah.
Right. One candidate, one job, perfect fit. How do you then sell your service?
I know.
Are you now staffing firm?
I know.
Right. So you have a monetization problem behind it.
God,
that is
dang it. I'm not trying to solve for that now, but let's have the conversation. And I hear what you're saying though.
Yeah. I think it's harder to solve for than we would like, but yeah, no, I think that's interesting. Like I said, I think what's going to happen with the EEO is super interesting. I don't think this is the last of the lawsuits. I think this is like the beginning of them, right? Because nothing that lawyers love more than unwritten legislation. And I think that we're going to see more legislation come, like California, like Colorado, often with a lack of understanding. So I think that's going to be the last piece of all of this is these, we already saw with the New York legislation that they had to quickly rewrite because it was missing some basic understanding of how it all works. That's a problem, right? That you've got folks that are trying to legislate something that is actually moving at a rate faster than they can possibly keep up with.
Absolutely. And that goes back to as we wrap up, the book that I'm reading now from 5 years ago that's talking about the dangers of letting private industry drive this development without putting any
I think I've told you one of my favorite books is called Weapons of Math Destruction.
Yeah,
you
told me that. I need to read that too, actually. Yep. I've never read that one.
And that one is interesting because it's really more about the data set that drives the AI decisioning. So, you start looking at all these tools and you could have the most, let's say it, bias-free tool there is, right until you add data.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Wow.
And now the data determines it, right? That's the funny part about all of this.
No, I hear you on that. Well, Leah, always a pleasure to learn from you and just talk shop with you. So I totally appreciate it. We'll have another guest on, I'm sure, soon. But until the next time, everybody get yourself talent synced with us. And we appreciate you listening. And Leah, we'll see you soon.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to the Talent Sync podcast, a Candy Benchmark research program and Job Sync collaboration. More episodes soon. Subscribe via your favorite podcast player today.